Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being here with us today. I know that we are heading toward the end of the day, and we have had a very long day. But as we heard early today from FPT, from Mike, that's everything in Vietnam nowadays is very much depends on technology to grow in the next 5 to 10 years. I hope that my session will give you insight and useful information. So my name is Trung Hoang. I'm coming from VinaCapital Ventures, the VCF, the venture investment arm of VinaCapital. First, let me walk you through who we are. VCF is a product, the venture capital product of VinaCapital. We in the market since 2007. The first fund has been established by the joint venture with Trevor Fisher Jefferson in the US. DFJ invests in Tesla, SpaceX, Baidu, and so on. So we launched a fund back in 2007 to focus on the internet economy of Vietnam. At that time, Vietnam had just been open. And we've been able to return 3.74x of the principal investment to our investor back in 2018, 2019. And then we move on with the second investment platform, which is VinaCapital Ventures. For this, we focus more on the inefficiency of Vietnam, which I will elaborate more later. And at the moment, we start to divest the portfolio. We are having about 1.5x at the moment. Going forward, later this year, we are looking to launch the third vintage, which is VCF 3. And this time, we focus more on the digital economy of Vietnam. The differentiation between us and others in the market, I think there are three things. First and foremost, we are ethical and responsible investors in the sense that we only look for the long-term benefits to society in order to make our decision. Second one, we're very hands-on. We only pull the trigger when we see the potential of value generation, i.e. that we do have the angle investment from us. And last but not least, we always try to align with the founder from day one. If there's no alignment, and there won't be any deals. And then I'll explain it to it when we talk about the exit and valuation and so on. So all in all, we are one of the first VC in the market, and we are still in the market. We've been able to fully divest and return money to our investors. We have our exposures not only in Vietnam, but also in the region and internationally. Last but not least, we have the deep experience of 17 years in Vietnam. We've been able to see all of the entrepreneur wave in Vietnam, starting from VinaGames and go to VinLife, and at the moment there's many others. And Vietnam nowadays, you can see there are about 4 unicorns, which we already have been able to talk with them. Having the long-term commitment in Vietnam, we have been able to build an ecosystem. For us, it's very important. We have the ecosystem to link all of key stakeholders in order to help startup and also to help investor household. First, we start with university. So we help university to come out with plan or to train entrepreneurship in the university. Students, they need place to apply their knowledge. And that's how we invest in startup, and we can help the startup to utilize resources from university. The other area is corporations. Corporations not come from us, but come from VinaCapital group itself. VinaCapital also have the other 6 funds, and we invest in also public and private equity. So corporation is very important. Why? There are 2 things. First, there's the pipeline or the source of entrepreneur. There's so many middle managers come from corporation, and they find difficulties, or they have the burning questions on how to solve the problem. And then when they start a business, because of they work with VinaCapital Group before, they come to us and they ask either we can provide them support on money or the other type of support like network or connection. So corporation will need to embed and absorb on innovation. And startup in the DNA, they have lots of innovation. So we bring startup to corporation. We bring power source from university to startup and corporation. On the other side, working in Vietnam, there's a lot of regulatory framework. There's a lot of regulation which will not catch up with the business environment. So by working with them, we've been able either to showcase from the world to Vietnam. Now, there's many business models which are new to Vietnam. We can help to bridge and showcase to the Vietnamese government. On the other side, we also advise the regulatory the government in order to set up sandbox or actually update the investment or the business environment in order to promote innovation and promote startup. So all in all, the ecosystem is being built with our long-term commitment, 17 years, and we've been able to help entrepreneurs to be successful. So there will be the spiral of effect that we have more successful entrepreneurs, they come back and contribute to society, and from there, the spiral is getting bigger and bigger. But we didn't keep it to ourselves. We also bring it to our investment partners. We want to make the bigger impact. So the first one, we work with DFJ, and we've been able to return money. The second one, we're working with our partner come from South Korea, Mirror Asset and Naver, and we start the divestment process, which I'll also show you the result later. So everything here from the business community, the startup community, the government, university, it's your fingertips. It's just a click away. So when you decide to look for the trusted local partner in Vietnam, in order to work with, and we are here. In terms of track record, the first vintage we established in 2007, and we invest in 11 companies, 12 companies. We've been able to divest from 5, and we mobilized 21 million USD, we returned 77 million to our investor. We've been able to bring one company to the local stock market in Vietnam back in 2017, and the market cap was 400 million was then. The other company is still in the market. For the current vintage, we invest in 22 companies and we start the divestment process. We just wrap up one divestment last week, the Global Care, and we work with a NASDAQ listed company, Who Is This? You see this on the second line. And Who Is This? We'll tell it more tomorrow when they talk about exit in Vietnam and why they decide to come to Vietnam. We do have a very deep and potential portfolio, which we believe that in the next 3 years, they will set up their leading position in Vietnam, and also we can have a very positive divestment. In here, I want to highlight a couple of things. The investment in Vietnam, as mentioned before, for this venture, VinaCapital Ventures, we focus more on the inefficiency of Vietnam. Why so? Vietnam is very inefficient looking from the outside. There's many factors, and then you heard earlier today, the economy of Vietnam will be pushed by 3 key main things. That the first, the FDI, the second one of the urbanization, and the rise of the domestic consumption. But in terms of logistics, for example, it costs about 22% of the GDP, which is way higher than other countries in the region. Food wastage, it costs about 4% of the GDP annually. Healthcare, education, it's only focused on the larger city of Vietnam. We heard about 70% today that the MT is only be distributed or set up in the larger city. So there's a lot of things in Vietnam can be addressed by using technology. So we look across all of the sector, we acknowledge and we find anywhere in Vietnam or any company can leverage on technology to make it more efficient, to introduce a new user experience, and then we want to have a touch or we want to work with them. But not only Vietnam, we're also looking for opportunity from outside of Vietnam who want to use Vietnam as a launching pad and try to tap into Southeast Asian market. So in our portfolio company, we have 4 investments come from Singapore, 1 from South Korea, and the rest are in Vietnam. The interesting case here is Validus, for example. Validus is the leading SME lending platform come from Singapore. And in Vietnam, SME is the backbone of the economy. It contributes up to 60% of the GDP. But SME cannot access to capital because they don't have the credit scoring. Very difficult for small SME in Vietnam to go to the bank and borrow money or ask a bank to help. So Validus provide a platform in order to build the approving scoring so SME can start access to capital. But it takes time because you have to convince SPV because this is a new business model. So we've been able to work with the State Bank of Vietnam, put them in the sandbox, introduce the platform into Vietnam, and now they're not only in Vietnam, they're in more than 5 countries in the region. The other interesting case come from outside of Vietnam is InnoHas. InnoHas is an alternative food company. They produce, they use a plant-based to produce meat. So to address the current issue of the food globally, and they use Vietnam as the country so where they can expand the production capability in order to introduce a product into halal country like Indonesia, or they can export it around the globe. So those 2 examples tell us we want to stay ahead of the curve in terms of technology, showcase to Vietnam. Vietnam doesn't have it today, doesn't mean that Vietnam doesn't have it tomorrow, and we have both sides. With that, I'd like to spend some time on the team and what we call the repeatable successful investment process and why we are able to divest, why we're able to look for the good asset in order to put our money to work. Currently, I'm heading the VCVCF for VinaCapital. I've been here for 18 years. I started with VinaCapital in 2006. So been through the first fund, the second fund, and looking forward for the third one. Prior to working with VinaCapital, I was the CEO myself. I was in the agricultural industry. So I bought a soybean meal from Argentina, Brazil, produced animal feed in Vietnam, working with farmer, export back catfish back to the US. So we formed the FSLAB, the farm to food industry. And before that, I spent 9 years with PricewaterhouseCoopers. So being as a consultant, the executor, and the investor myself, I've been able to see the 2 sides of the business and then can help the startup and founders. My colleague, Richard, he has also the combination of experience in New York and also in Southeast Asia. Before joining VinaCapital, he worked for Masan, the largest FMCG in Vietnam. And before that, he was the investment banker. So our team also had a diversified background from the auditing, from the investment, and also from the operation. So we have a very exclusive, deep knowledge about Vietnam. And we are not only the investor, but we also can add value to the business, as mentioned earlier. Under the guidance of our IC member, Don, he has the open speech today. He's the Mr. Hoang of Vietnam. Been in Vietnam for more than 25 years and have a very deep knowledge in the local market. His right hand, Mr. Brooke Taylor, who introduced his book earlier today, he also had a deep experience in Southeast Asia, cover Vietnam, Thailand in auditing and also in risk and compliance. Alex, our CIO, also worked from the bank industry, insurance, and we also have the advisor, Mr. Philip Rochler, who is the former Vice Chancellor of Germany, who helped us to promote Vietnam and also bring investors from the world who are interested in in investment come to Vietnam. And we have the very robust and rigorous investment approach. But all in all, the secret sauce is not on the deal sourcing or the investment criteria or target company, value added, whatever. All of the other investment firms can tell you that. The secret sauce is that we are not focused much on the valuation, but we spend time to select a good asset. Okay, I just want to repeat. We don't care much about valuation, but we try to spend a lot of time in order to select a good asset. And we're very transparent by communicating our expectation to our startup from day one. That's how we can help to set up the KPI and the management mechanism to help the business. And also, we can align the interest from day one, and then we can build through it with each other. The ultimate objective when we work with founders is that we will do whatever good for the company. We will do whatever good for the company. So that is our secret. Just give you a very concrete example of what we've done in years 2022. We visit 430 opportunities, and we only can conclude for 8 deals. We go through all of the process of the negotiation, the structures, the approval, and we very much put in together everything from the beginning in the corporate governance and the risk management. Which we also proud that make us very different from other VCs in not only in Vietnam but also in the region. Here, there's a couple of things founders and entrepreneurs talk about us. If you listen to daily cast, I guess there's a word of game changer and the global expansion. Game changer and global expansion. For validators, they're talking about the Vietnam footprint. We are the one who helped them to enter the market. Global Care, the very first divestment, you hear about the ecosystem and the management experience and the reputation will help them to scale and make connection. For your box, they'll become number 1 in Vietnam by having worked with us. And last but not least, you hear from Tixalan, the top tier out-of-home media company in Vietnam, similar to Focus Media in China. That's the corporate governance has helped the company be strong and having the dominator position in Vietnam. With all of that, I'd like to move on with the future plan. That's we want to launch the third fund later this year. I go through the strategy and the structure. I just want to repeat things we heard earlier today. Everything in Vietnam is based on technology, 100 million population, more than 100 mobile subscribers. And Vietnamese government had worked really hard in order to improve everything from the innovation, from startup ecosystem and everything. But all in all, Vietnam is expected to be one of the 5 countries we see the fastest growth in the next 7 years, which will generate about 250 billion economic value. But still, Vietnam, even though they have lots of potential, there's still lots of inefficiency, as I mentioned before. And by using technology, we can help or we can capture these 30 billions right now of digital market, of the digital economy. I don't want to repeat that, but just one thing here, healthcare, for example, and with the more and more people, they move from the rural area to the urban city, you will see that there will be needs in order to have more quality or the good services. Healthcare definitely is one of the areas. Healthcare and education is an area. So with technology, those services can be more accessible and affordable for the population. Last but not least, we talk about blockchain. Blockchain is just representative of what we want to say here. That's ABC. You talk about AI, blockchain, and cloud. We heard about the semiconductor earlier today. But all of these things, when we talk about the investment, we also very focused that we will invest only things that will bring for the long-term benefits of the societies. So when we talk about blockchain here, we only want to invest in the infrastructure. So we don't talk about crypto money, anything like that. But anything can be replicated from Web 2, we want to have it in Web 3. For example, in the current fund, we invest in the crypto bank, one of the crypto bank in the world, which is called Signum, operating from Singapore, but have full license in Switzerland. Or we invest in the crypto exchange currency. It's similar to stock exchange. So all of these things, we want to have it contribute into the overall economic or the long-term benefits with the society. And we have the observation that in Vietnam and overall in the VC investment nowadays, most of the VC investors in Vietnam are early stage. Prior to COVID, there are more than 126 VC circling around Vietnam, and some of them are just parachuting from the region. But the check size is just from 500K to 2 million. So there's many companies from those portfolio companies, or the other company had been going through the difficult time during COVID. They are ready to absorb the growth capital, but they cannot access it. Why? Because the PE fund from the region is still skeptical, and they cannot find ways to invest in Vietnam. Or they're not sizable enough, they're not big enough for them to make the investment. So the gap is getting bigger and bigger. That's why we believe that if we attack that, we grab that opportunity, we have the investment fund which can invest in the very asset-light, growing company which already have the product market fit, and with the EBITDA positive, we can help them to scale in the next 5 to 7 years. The asset horizon will be shorter, and we aim for the return of investment from 20 to 35%. We target for 25% IRR, which is in line with our first fund, and we would like to conduct the investment in from 2 to 6 months. The fund has been accepted as Cayman Island structure. We are working with our anchor LP to iron out a couple of things. We hope that we can launch it later this year or early next year. We aim to invest up to 10 companies in the portfolio, mobilize 75 million. The fund terms will be 7 years with the possibility to extend 1 + 1 + 1 in case that we need more time to divest the asset with the better upside. We will reserve the the investment ratio will be 2 to 1 in order to provide a safety net in case we want to top up for the better benefit. And we do have a pipeline which is ready to be deployed. Again, the investment opportunity is not only in Vietnam, but very much across the Southeast Asia in order to capture into the digital economy. But we only invest with the Vietnam angle. So all of the companies here, either they want to use the resource from Vietnam, or they want to use Vietnam as a launching pad, or the Vietnamese company want to go to the region. I think I'm running out of time. With that, I'd like to conclude the presentation and set the floor for Q&A. We working with our anchor LP. We hope that we can launch it later this year, December. But in the worst scenario, we'll do it in the first quarter next year. Yes.
The anchor LP will be co-GP or just pure LP?
They will be pure LP with special terms. Well, if you don't have any questions, I'd like to thank you again for your attending today, and I hope that, yes, sure.
One question. You had one of the slides, partners in funds 1 and 2, but they had different partners, and
Yeah.
so do you see that as inhibiting your fundraising?
No, because it's extend our network. Actually, there's a partner from the first fund, DFJ. We find that it's too far away from Vietnam. We intended to bring Vietnamese startup into America, but actually it didn't work well. It's same as the other company from South Korea or India. They want to go to India, to United States, because United States itself is an international market, and all of the company here, they come out with something, and be frank that Vietnam doesn't have disruptive technology. When I say disruptive technology, if that the novel idea either you come from education or a lot of R&D. And R&D in Vietnam is not there. Even big company like Masan, Vitel, they don't spend much on R&D. In terms of education, the university in Vietnam is still not there. So all of the technology in Vietnam are just technology replication or technology enhancement. So company here, even though they come out with something, they're going to compete when they go to the US. That's why we decided, why don't we go nearer home? So that's why we go South Korea. And it's worked pretty well because we can bridge South Korean startup to Vietnam. Technology-wise, they're more advanced. Market-wise, Vietnam is very good. So we believe that going forward, we prefer to go nearer like Thailand, Taiwan, rather than go to the United States. So to answer your question short, in terms of fundraising, now we focus more on this area unless that we see potential interest from the US, and then we will reconnect. Yeah.
That's correct. Sorry, how do you see the competition in terms of venture capital deal flow in Vietnam? Because I understand that of late years, there's been increasing companies here, like VIG, Touchstone, Monks Hill, Open Space, setting up offices in Vietnam as well as from Singapore coming in to get deals.
Right. So as I mentioned before, there's many funds circling around, just parachute in, so they're not in the market. So they make a lot of investment, but in order to grow the business, you need people on the ground. So I mentioned about the ecosystem. Giving money is one thing, but how to connect, how to open network, and how to have the business grow, how to set all of the objective KPI, that's totally different story. So for the foreign fund, well, we work with them and we try to partner with them, co-invest rather than compete, because we really can be eye and ear in the market in order to help them scale. For the local company like VIG or Masan, we see them as our exit path, because in Vietnam nowadays, I still believe that trade sale is still the most viable way to exit. And when corporate come in, as I mentioned before, the corporate, they need startup, they need innovation. And with us, we can take risks and build the solutions which is ready for them to absorb. So VIG or Masan is very good partner because they tell us their problems, what they want to solve it, and we can help them to make it quicker and reduce risk.
So I think that was a really good point that you can help in scale in Vietnam, and I think it's a great selling point to founders, right? Do you have any numbers to share in terms of when you invested in some of the Fund 2 companies? What was the percentage of revenue in Vietnam versus today?
Yes, we do have the statistic. Draft number. Hi, can you help me in terms of validators? When they just start with zero things, and I was the very first general director in Vietnam, and where are they now?
Annually, I just entered Vietnam in 2018, started with zero. Now, annually, they disburse about 25 plus million USD term loan.
Okay, so maybe we can conclude the session here. Thank you all for attending the breakout. We do have one last session with the senior leadership of VinaCapital, Don Lam, the CEO, Brooke Taylor, the CEO, and Alex Hamlin, the CIO, downstairs. So if you can join us in the ballroom one last time, please.
Thank you.